Did you know that the story of a god who dies and is resurrected isn't new? Long before many familiar religious figures, ancient Egyptians told the tale of Osiris, the first resurrection god in written history. His story, over 4,500 years old, laid the foundation for one of humanity's most enduring beliefs, that life can triumph over death. Today, we're diving deep into the myth of Osiris, exploring why he was so much more than just a god. He was a promise of eternity. Before he became a deity of the afterlife, Osiris was said to have been a living king on earth. He was a wise and benevolent ruler who brought civilization to humanity. Imagine a world just beginning, and Osiris arrives, teaching people how to farm the land, how to establish laws and justice, and how to build an orderly society. His reign was a golden age of peace and prosperity, a time when the world operated in perfect balance, or what the Egyptians called Ma'at. He was the embodiment of order, growth, and life itself. But as we know, where there is order, chaos is often lurking nearby. The great enemy in this story is Osiris' own brother, Seth, the god of chaos, storms, and disorder. Consumed by jealousy, Seth hatched a devious plan to usurp the throne. He hosted a grand banquet and presented a magnificent ornate chest, promising to gift it to whoever fit inside perfectly. One by one, the guests tried, but none could fit. Then, Osiris, unsuspecting of the plot, lay down inside. It was a perfect fit. In an instant, Seth and his accomplices slammed the lid shut, sealed it with lead, and hurled the coffin into the Nile River. Later, driven by pure malice, Seth found the body, dismembered it into 14 pieces, and scattered them all across the land of Egypt. This brutal act wasn't just murder. It was a symbolic attack of chaos against order, death against life. But this is not where the story ends. It's where the magic begins. Osiris's devoted wife, the powerful goddess Isis, was heartbroken but not defeated. A master of magic and healing, she refused to accept her husband's fate. With her sister Nephthys, she tirelessly searched every corner of Egypt, from the swamps of the delta to the distant deserts, to find the scattered pieces of her beloved. One by one, she gathered them all, except for one part which had been eaten by a fish in the Nile. Using her divine powers and ancient spells, she painstakingly reassembled Osiris's body, wrapping it in linen cloths in a ritual that would become the basis for mummification. Then, she transformed into a bird, flapped her wings over his body, and breathed life back into him, just long enough for one final sacred union. In this moment, she conceived their son Horus, who would grow up to avenge his father and reclaim the throne. This temporary revival of Osiris is the first symbolic resurrection in recorded myth, a powerful testament to love's ability to defy even death. However, Osiris did not return to rule the world of the living. His journey had changed him. Instead, he descended into the underworld, known as the Duat, and became its eternal king. He was no longer the god of the living, but the lord of the afterlife, the ultimate judge of all souls who passed from the mortal world into eternity. This introduced a revolutionary concept to human spirituality. Death is not an end. It is simply a transition, a doorway to another phase of existence. Osiris's story transformed the fear of the unknown into a structured belief in an afterlife governed by justice and order. And with Osiris as king of the underworld came the famous judgment of the soul. Ancient Egyptians believed that after death, every person would stand before Osiris in the Hall of Two Truths. There, their heart, believed to be the seat of their conscience and deeds, would be weighed on a golden scale against the feather of Ma'at, the symbol of truth and cosmic harmony. If the heart was light, balanced with the feather, it meant the person had lived a righteous life. They would be granted entry into the field of reeds, the Egyptian version of paradise, to live for eternity. But if the heart was heavy with sin, it would tip the scales. A terrifying creature named Emmet, part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus, would devour the heart, and the soul would cease to exist forever. This ritual established Osiris as the ultimate figure of moral accountability, ensuring that justice extended beyond the grave. The story of Osiris was also deeply woven into the fabric of the natural world. He was inextricably linked to the cycles of nature that sustained Egypt. His death and rebirth mirrored the annual flooding of the Nile, which receded to leave behind fertile black soil. He symbolized the agricultural cycle itself, the seed that is buried in the earth, dies, and is reborn as a new crop. This connection made him incredibly relatable to ordinary Egyptians, especially farmers whose entire livelihood depended on these cycles. For them, Osiris wasn't some distant, abstract deity. He was present in the wheat that grew in their fields and the life-giving water of the river. His story was a divine explanation for the world they saw around them every single day. So why is this myth considered the first of its kind? The story of Osiris contains all the core elements that define a resurrection narrative, and it's the earliest one we have in written form. You have a divine or royal figure who is tragically killed. He is then brought back to life through a supernatural act of love and magic. Crucially, he doesn't just come back to his old life. He transcends it, becoming the ruler of eternal life and the judge of the dead. This powerful narrative structure death, restoration, and a new, elevated existence would echo through countless other mythologies and religions for thousands of years. The tale of Osiris provided a blueprint for how humanity could comprehend and overcome its greatest fear. This belief in resurrection had a profound impact on Egyptian culture, most notably in their famous burial practices. The myth of Isis reassembling Osiris inspired the entire ritual of mummification. Egyptians believed that preserving the physical body was essential for the soul, or the Ba, to recognize it and reunite with it in the afterlife. The elaborate process of embalming and wrapping the body was a practical reenactment of what Isis did for Osiris. In fact, every deceased person who was mummified was ceremonially identified with Osiris. They were often called the Osiris of their name. By undergoing these rituals, they weren't just being buried. They were embarking on their own journey of spiritual rebirth, hoping to follow their god into eternal life. Ultimately, Osiris was more than just a god in a complex pantheon. He was the embodiment of hope. He represented the promise that death was not the end, that justice prevails even after life, and that every soul has the potential for rebirth. In a world filled with uncertainty, his story offered comfort and a sense of cosmic order. It transformed the terrifying finality of death into a belief in eternal continuity, a journey from the world of the living to the everlasting kingdom ruled by a just and once human king. The myth of Osiris is a timeless reminder that even in our darkest moments, the seeds of rebirth and hope can be found. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey into ancient Egypt fascinating, please hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next dive into history's most incredible stories. See you next time.